Welcome back to Dealing Together. First caller?
I bought 3 sweaters to get the 4th free.
Oh, you got fleeced. Next caller?
I traded my old Samsung at AT&T for a new Samsung Galaxy S24 Plus and chose my plan.
That's not a bad deal.
It is not.
Our best smartphone deals. Your choice of plan. Learn how to get the new Samsung Galaxy S24 Plus with Galaxy AI on us with eligible trade-in. AT&T. Connecting changes everything.
Offers vary by device. Subject to change. S24 plus 256 gigabyte offer available for a limited time. Terms and restrictions apply. See att.com/Samsung for details.
Former lovers reunite, but their relationship is tarnished by a series of events involving love, drugs, lies, and murder. The family and friends of 22-year-old Darice Knowles, a Bahamas native and beauty queen, become concerned when she goes missing, eventually leading to her murder. What happens when love turns fatal? This is the Fatal Attraction Podcast with grave betrayal, Darice Knowles.
She was an island beauty with everything going for her.
She was a runner-up in Miss Bahamas competition.
She just has the look and the personality.
He was the old flame she followed to America.
He missed her, she missed him.
They reunited and picked up right where they left off.
But after 4 blissful weeks, it all goes wrong.
He dropped off at the airport to go back home.
All of a sudden, she just falls off the face of the earth.
She never got on the plane.
Family and friends are frantic to find the missing woman.
They were concerned, very concerned.
Mom flooded her phone until the voicemails backed up.
She's afraid her daughter's been kidnapped.
But the truth is far worse.
She got caught up with very evil people.
What they did really struck a nerve with me.
There's some level of jealousy, hatred, vindictiveness. It's evil.
The horror that she endured was unimaginable.
February 28th, 2006. It's a quiet evening in Cocoa, Florida, a small coastal town just 45 minutes from Orlando.
Cocoa is a small town of about 16,000 people, directly west of Cocoa Beach. Pretty heavy tourist area.
It's a working class town, home to the folks who staff the attractions and hotels.
But at 12:30 a.m., residents in the Pine Acres neighborhood are about to be awakened by a violent scene.
People heard multiple gunshots and immediately calls to 911 began pouring in.
When detectives arrive, they see a man lying on the ground covered in blood.
Is that who I think it is?
They are able to quickly ID the man, who was well known to police as a drug dealer named Willie Parker.
When we arrived, Willie Parker was dead next to his vehicle in the front yard of a house.
He was on the ground with the door open, blood all over the place.
There were drugs in his vehicle. He had several prior arrests for drug sales.
However, detectives suspect the murder was more personal than a robbery or drug hit.
They didn't take his money, they didn't take his watch, they didn't take nothing. So we know it wasn't a robbery.
What detectives don't know is that what starts as an investigation into a murdered drug dealer will soon turn into a search for a missing young woman from the Bahamas, and a shocking crime that will take them 4 years to solve.
Never in a million years would detectives have predicted these 2 cases were connected.
It's one of the most bizarre twists that you can imagine.
She was loved, and she didn't deserve this. She did not deserve this situation.
22-year-old Bahamas native Darice Knowles was as dazzling as the crystal blue water and brilliant white beaches of the islands she called home.
Her beauty is kind of breathtaking. Everyone who sees her say, "Oh my God, who is that?"
She competed in beauty pageants and was actually the runner-up in the Miss Bahamas Universe pageant in 2004.
She could have done anything. She had the brain, she had the look, she had the personality, she had everything. She kind of a firecracker.
Darice had put her award-winning personality to work at the Bahamas Ministry of Tourism.
She She worked for the Bahama Host Program, which trained hospitality workers in customer service skills, sort of making sure that they represented the island right.
The pseudo personality, just being smart and bubbly.
However, she had bigger dreams.
She was in college. She was very focused.
She was considering medical school.
She was really smart, so she's like the top in class. She had a bright future.
By the fall of 2004, Darice thought she'd found someone to share her future with too, in fellow islander, 27-year-old Christopher Pratt.
He was educated in the Bahamas. Their families knew each other.
Christopher was about 5 years older when he and Darice met. She was drawn to his maturity. Christopher was almost like a protector, a little bit more experienced.
However, in November of 2005, this young couple's love would be put on hold.
I want us to stay like this forever.
I know, me too, babe.
Christopher Pratt had found some financial opportunities in Florida that he couldn't pass up. So now he had to break the news to Darice that he was leaving the Bahamas for Florida.
Everyone growing up in the Bahamas looking for a way out in terms of trying to make it, you know.
He had a cousin here and they were doing like a construction business.
I don't want you to go.
I know, but I have to.
Christopher promised that the separation would only be temporary.
Let me go over, get things going. When I get settled, you come over.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Over the next several months, the couple maintained a long-distance relationship.
They were in contact with each other while he was in the U.S., and he kept asking her to move over here to be with him.
So he offered to buy her a plane ticket to bring her to Cocoa so they could be together. He really missed her. He really wanted to be with her.
She missed him just as much as he missed her and agreed to come over.
On February 15th, 2006, after several months apart, Darice and Christopher were reunited, if only for a few weeks.
It was intent just to spend time with him, see if it's even going to be something that she would want to stay here long term.
Christopher and Darice picked up right where they left off, and for the next 4 weeks, their romance was as strong as ever.
Once they got back together, it was almost like no time had passed at all. That connection between Christopher and Darice was very deep.
If anything, the distance between the two of them made their passion stronger.
When the time came for Darice to return to the Bahamas, Christopher continued to try to convince her that her place was with him.
You know I want you to stay, right?
I'll come back, maybe for good.
Darice wanted to be with him, but making the move to Florida wasn't as easy as Christopher hoped.
Darice explained she couldn't leave her family like that. She was very close with her parents, so it was a big decision.
She was a good person. She loved her mom, and she was always keeping in touch with her.
My mom spoke with her daughter frequently, like a couple times a week.
But now, on March 21st, 4 days after Darice was due to arrive back in the Bahamas, her mother can't reach her.
She's not answering her phone.
She called her daughter repeatedly.
Darice had given her mom Christopher's number in case she couldn't get a hold of her.
Come on.
Yeah, hello?
Christopher.
Hey, Miss Knowles.
Is Darice there?
Nah, what you mean?
She's not answering the phone.
Wait, she ain't call you when she landed?
No.
That's impossible. I dropped off at the airport myself.
What?
Christopher's news makes Darice's mother even more concerned than she was before.
That left her worried. This was completely unlike Darice.
They knew that something had happened.
When the Cocoa police get involved, all signs point to a disturbing possibility.
Her passport activity was non-existent.
She never got on the plane.
More secrets are revealed once we return with more Fatal Attraction.
At the beginning of March 2006, 22-year-old Darice Knowles was having the time of her life in Florida.
She'd come over from the Bahamas in February to rekindle things with her old flame, Christopher Pratt.
He cared for her, he loved her, he wanted her to move to Florida to be with him.
But by March 21st, it's been 4 days since Darice has had contact with her family, and her mother is worried sick.
Darice was known to keep in touch with her family, her mom in particular. Every day she would call her.
And when Darice's mom reaches out to Christopher, he says that he dropped her off at the airport.
Yo, she ain't call you when she landed?
No.
He thought she had gone home to see her family.
In a panic, Darice's mom contacts her daughter's friends in the Bahamas to see if anyone has spoken to or seen Darice.
Pick up the phone.
She also contacts police in Darice's last known location, Cocoa, Florida.
I'd like to file a missing persons report.
Mrs. Knowles is transferred to a detective with the Cocoa Police Department.
Caravano, Cocoa Police.
I spoke with Mrs. Knowles. She said that it was unusual for her not to, call and say, hey, Mom, I'm okay. So that raised flags with us also at that point.
My boyfriend took her to the airport.
Yes. She was supposed to be home days ago, but I haven't heard from her.
You have the hope that something hasn't happened and she's just somewhere else. But I think they knew in the back of her mind something has happened.
It's not like her to disappear like this.
Okay, man, we're gonna do all we can to help find your daughter. I'll be in touch.
Thank you.
After talking to Darice's mom, the Cocoa Police begin their investigation.
We was reaching out with customs, the airport police, to try to find out if she did cross back.
So when we checked with customs immigration, there's no passport activity.
Which means Darice never got on the plane.
So now detectives start to wonder if she made it to the airport at all.
Detectives decide it's time they talk to Christopher Pratt.
He was staying at one of the local motels here in Cocoa.
Christopher Pratt?
Yeah.
We need to ask you a few questions about Darice Knowles.
Did y'all find her?
He seemed genuinely concerned about Darice and wanted to know if she was okay.
He was forthcoming and wanted to cooperate with us.
However, Christopher has no new information for detectives.
Christopher Pratt told us that he took her to the airport to fly her back to the Bahamas and has not seen her since.
Did you make sure she got on the plane?
No, man, I just dropped her off.
Can you think of anywhere else she might have gone?
No.
At this point in the investigation, detectives have little reason to doubt Christopher's story.
He cared for her enough to ask her to move from the Bahamas, to leave her family, and to move over here to be with him.
It's all my fault, man.
Why do you say that?
Because I should have never asked her to come.
He's very quiet, soft-spoken, but he doesn't seem like the person that would be aggressive.
We'll let you know if we hear anything.
When detectives return to the station and run Christopher's name through their database, the results appear to confirm their first impression of Darice's boyfriend.
She didn't have a criminal background at all.
No speeding tickets, nothing.
But when the detectives run Darice's name, something does pop up.
There was a disturbance at a bar downtown in Cocoa, and one of our officers had responded.
She was given a citation.
It's a trespass warning, dated March 15th, 2 days before Darice's family lost contact with her.
Detectives figure that can't be a coincidence.
So we looked into that call, who the officer was that handled the call.
The officer's name is Thomas Shaw, and detectives waste no time bringing him in to talk.
You want to see me?
Yeah, come in, have a seat. Darice Knowles, you wrote up for trespassing a few days ago.
Yeah, I remember her.
According to Shaw, it was a routine incident.
She's this gorgeous girl. Guys are hovering, buying her drinks.
She had a little bit too much to drink. It was getting a little loud.
The bartender ended up asking her to leave.
An argument ensues and things get out of hand.
Once police were called, Officer Shaw responded to the scene.
He states that he gave her a trespass warning and asked her to leave.
Did she comply?
Yeah, I mean, she did it without any trouble.
And that's it?
Not exactly.
What the officer tells them next adds a new twist to Darice's disappearance.
He did meet with Darice Knowles off duty, and then he hooks up with her. They have a sexual encounter.
Detectives start to wonder if Christopher knew about this.
Could this be a case of jealousy or a hookup gone terribly wrong?
There's some level of jealousy, hatred, vindictiveness. He's watching his girlfriend with another man.
More secrets are revealed once we return with more Fatal Attraction.
Welcome back to Dealing Together. First caller?
I bought 3 sweaters to get the 4th free.
Oh, you got fleeced. Next caller.
I traded my old Samsung at AT&T for a new Samsung Galaxy S24 Plus and chose my plan.
That's not a bad deal.
It is not.
Our best smartphone deals, your choice of plan. Learn how to get the new Samsung Galaxy S24 Plus with Galaxy AI on us with eligible trade-in. AT&T. Connecting changes everything.
Offers vary by device, subject to change. S24 plus 256 gigabyte offer available for a limited time. Terms and restrictions apply. See att.com/Samsung for details.
Cocoa detectives investigating the disappearance of Darice Knowles have just discovered that the 22-year-old Bahamian had an encounter with police 2 days before she disappeared.
In fact, Darice partied so hard that the bartender didn't only cut her off, he also ended up calling the cops.
Cocoa patrolman Thomas Shaw was the responding officer.
He talked with her and they calmed the situation down there. He put her in his patrol car.
Though Shaw admits, things then took a somewhat unprofessional turn.
The officer began talking to Darice, and of course, she was a very beautiful girl. Gorgeous.
According to Officer Shaw, that was his last call for the night. So after driving Darice to the motel where she stayed with Christopher Pratt, they talked for hours and then exchanged phone numbers.
We pressed that issue a little bit more, and Officer Shaw said that he gave his number to her to contact him if she was interested in meeting, having dinner, hanging out.
And the following evening, the off-duty officer picked up Darice for a date, not knowing she was involved with Christopher Pratt.
All of a sudden, detectives learned that Darice and Christopher may have been on the outs.
Shaw says that when he picked up Darice, a man followed her out of the motel room and talked to her in the parking lot.
Shaw says he doesn't know who the guy was, but his description matches Christopher Pratt.
According to Shaw, it looked like they were having an argument.
What was that about?
Nothing.
All right, where to?
How about your place?
That's cool.
Shaw says Darice ended up spending the night.
He hooks up with her. They have a sexual encounter.
They want to know exactly what his relationship was with her. They ask all sorts of questions.
You never saw her again?
I tried calling her, but she never answered my call or called me back.
Officer Shaw insisted that it was a one-time thing.
Like, y'all ought to be out there talking to the guy that she was staying with. Her boyfriend, if you want to call it that. She told me they haven't been getting along.
Detectives begin to suspect that Christopher Pratt had kept this information from them.
They were currently dating and still living together, and she's now with another man. I would definitely speculate that there's some level of jealousy.
And if Christopher knew that she spent the night with this man, could that have sent his jealousy to the next level?
Detectives need to have another talk with Christopher. But when they return to the motel, they discover that he's checked out of his room.
They'd been cleaned and turned over.
Detectives put out a bolo for Christopher Pratt and continue to search for Darice.
We're just waiting to see what other type of leads we can get.
Weeks pass with no new leads. But on April 12th, 2006, Cocoa detectives get a call from South Carolina State Police.
Really?
The trooper informs Cocoa detectives about 3 arrests he'd made the night before.
Can I see your license registration, please?
A South Carolina state trooper was acting on a tip about drugs coming through the state.
There were 3 men in the car. 27-year-old Vatisse Kirkman, the driver, 31-year-old David Willis, and 27-year-old Christopher Pratt.
Where y'all heading to?
New York. See some friends.
New York, huh?
Yeah.
Need y'all step out of the vehicle.
Police had a tip about this particular vehicle transporting drugs.
It didn't take long for the tip to pay off.
When they searched their car, they found drugs and they found a firearm.
They collect the firearm and send it off to be tested.
Police took the 3 men into custody, unaware of the Florida bolo for Christopher regarding Darice's disappearance. But David Willis claims to have information that would blow the case wide open.
David Willis starts swearing up and down that he didn't have any involvement with him. He didn't know the stuff was in the car with them.
I was just driving the car.
Them being in this vehicle in South Carolina, they were going to charge them federally.
He was telling the authorities there in South Carolina that he needs to talk to the police back in Cocoa.
David Willis says to the officers, "Let me tell you what I know."
He says that he has some information about a murder.
Hurry up, let's go!
More secrets are revealed once we return with more Fatal Attraction.
Welcome back to Dealing Together. First caller?
I bought 3 sweaters to get the 4th free.
Oh, you got fleeced. Next caller.
I traded my old Samsung at AT&T for a new Samsung Galaxy S24 Plus and chose my plan.
That's not a bad deal.
It is not.
Our best smartphone deals, your choice of plan. Learn how to get the new Samsung Galaxy S24 Plus with Galaxy AI on us with eligible trade-in. AT&T. Connecting changes everything.
Offers vary by device, subject to change. S24 plus 256 gigabyte offer available for a limited time. Terms and restrictions apply. See att.com/Samsung for details.
April 12, 2006. It's been more than 3 weeks since 22-year-old Darice Knowles disappeared in Cocoa, Florida. But detectives working the case are about to make an unexpected breakthrough.
Caravano, Cocoa Police.
I got a call that there were 3 Cocoa boys arrested in South Carolina.
They're 27-year-old Batiste Kirkman, 31-year-old David Willis, and 27-year-old Christopher Pratt, Darice's boyfriend.
Batiste, Christopher, and David were actually traveling to New York when they were stopped in South Carolina.
They were going to New York to flip some drugs. They had cocaine, marijuana, an abundance of it on them.
While detectives are surprised to learn Christopher is involved in a drug deal, it's the intel offered by David Willis that catches their attention.
Once he was arrested, David Willis tells deputies in South Carolina he has information about a murder.
At that time, we drove to South Carolina.
In South Carolina, detectives find Willis eager to talk.
The drug charges and the firearm charges, he could have been looking at 10, 15 years, and he was trying to mitigate that.
But when detectives sit down with David Willis, they are surprised about whose murder he wants to discuss.
They thought this would be a big revelation about what happened to Darice, but it's not.
Guy named Willie Parker.
Detectives know exactly who David Willis is talking about.
It's a drug dealer. He was shot and killed in Cocoa.
The murder had occurred on February 28, 2006, 3 weeks before Darice's disappearance.
Okay, what can you tell us about the Parker murder?
Batiste killed him.
Batiste Kirkman was well known to police.
According to Willis, Batiste had a vendetta against Parker for moving in on his girlfriend.
Batiste killed him.
Yeah. When you looked him in the eyes, no conscience, he's crazy.
He said he was psychopathic. He would just kill people. Everybody feared Batiste.
Willis claims that on that night in February, Batiste staked out Willie Parker's home, waiting for him to come out.
Willie Parker was standing outside. They drove up. Kirkman got out, shot him multiple times.
Hey, yo, Willie!
Willis claims Batiste was the shooter. But another man was driving.
The getaway driver in the shooting of Willie Parker was Christopher Pratt.
Go, man, let's go, man. Hurry up, man.
But how does Christopher's involvement in Willie Parker's murder connect to Darice's disappearance?
Was Darice Knowles caught up in any of this?
Darice?
Pratt's girlfriend.
Yeah, I know who she is.
Where is she?
She's dead.
What Willis tells them next is beyond belief.
What happened to Darice Knowles?
I don't know, but I know they buried her.
How do you know that?
I took Batiste to get the shovel.
Willis tells detectives that Batiste called him for a ride on the afternoon of March 17th.
Yo, Batiste!
That is the same day that Darice is supposed to fly home to the Bahamas.
I need you to give us a ride. All right.
Willis says he knew better than to ask Batiste Kirkman too many questions.
And dude is crazy. Chris and Darice was acting real strange, so I knew something was up.
How were they acting?
Scared.
Next, Willis says he drove to a nearby home improvement store where Batiste went inside, leaving him to wait with Darice and Christopher in the car.
He says that Batiste bought a shovel, duct tape, and several bags of ready-mix concrete.
David said after their trip to the store, Batiste dropped him back home and asked to borrow his car.
After that day, he never saw Darice again.
And he killed that girl.
Any idea why?
Nah, but I heard Batiste talking about where they left her.
He was claiming that she was buried somewhere near the power lines on State Road 524 in Cocoa.
After talking to Willis, detectives bring Batiste Kirkman into the interrogation room.
He had been suspect in several violent crimes.
Batiste was very used to being interrogated by detectives, and they could tell.
As we sat down with him, he was very curious. He asked questions, which is not unusual for a suspect in a crime. They want to know where you stand and what do you have.
Word on the street says you killed Willie Parker.
Never. Not Willie. Willie was a good friend of mine.
He wouldn't give us any information.
Getting nowhere on the Parker murder, detectives turned their focus to Darice.
Yeah, I hear Darice Knowles is a good friend of yours too, isn't she?
You could say that. It's Chris's girl.
When's the last time you saw her?
Been a couple weeks. Last I heard, she was in the Bahamas.
He says that she went back home. He was pretty calm and cool about it.
I hope nothing happened to her.
More secrets are revealed once we return with more Fatal Attraction.
Welcome back to Dealing Together. First caller?
I bought 3 sweaters to get the 4th free.
Oh, you got fleeced. Next caller.
I traded my old Samsung at AT&T for a new Samsung Galaxy S24 Plus and chose my plan.
That's not a bad deal.
It is not.
Our best smartphone deals, your choice of plan. Learn how to get the new Samsung Galaxy S24 Plus with Galaxy AI on us with eligible trade-in. AT&T. Connecting changes everything.
Offers vary by device, subject to change. S24 plus 256 gigabyte offer available for a limited time. Terms and restrictions apply. See att.com/Samsung for details.
Detectives have just learned the fate of 22-year-old Darice Knowles from a man named David Willis.
David Willis was claiming that she was dead and that Batiste Kirkman and Christopher Pratt buried her.
After Batiste Kirkman's coy interview goes nowhere, detectives turn their focus to Darice's boyfriend, Christopher Pratt.
Looks like you're getting yourself in some pretty serious trouble.
We beat around the bush a little bit. We told him, maybe if you have any information that'll help you.
What can you tell us about Willie Parker?
I heard he got shot, that's all.
We tried to soften him up a little bit, but he wasn't buying it.
Detectives try to catch Christopher off guard when they change the subject to Darice's disappearance.
What you doing up here in South Carolina? The girl's been missing for over a few weeks down in Florida.
Look, I took her to the airport, all right? Look, man, when a guy like Batiste asks you to go on a ride to New York, you don't say no.
Christopher says she was supposed to be going to the Bahamas. That's all I know.
The conversation was very, very frustrating.
Christopher refuses to reveal what happened to Darice, but the trip to South Carolina does give detectives plenty to go on.
So they have all of these claims from David Willis about these two being involved in Darice's disappearance.
Once back in Florida, detectives begin building a case against Christopher Pratt and Darice Kirkman in the murder of Willie Parker and the disappearance of Darice Knowles.
We didn't have a lot of good evidence in the Darice Knowles case yet, so we were still trying to piece that together.
After contacting authorities in the Bahamas, they discover that Christopher Pratt's record isn't as clean as they thought.
He did have a history in the Bahamas that was mainly in drug sales.
Detectives know Christopher was involved in both the Parker murder and Darice's disappearance, but can't shake the feeling that it wasn't his plan.
You could tell, though, he was just like going along with Kirkman.
Next, detectives follow up at the home improvement store, where Darice supposedly purchased a shovel, duct tape, and concrete.
We knew the date that happened, so we just went through thousands of receipts and finally found the receipt that only had concrete, a shovel, and duct tape.
The purchaser paid cash, so the receipt alone wasn't enough to confirm David Willis' story.
However, a timestamp on the receipt and the store's security footage provide detectives with the proof they need.
We watched Darice check out at the counter, and we watched him push the cart out of the door with concrete, a shovel, and duct tape.
So Willie's story checks out, but they still don't know why they would kill Darice and what, if anything, that has to do with Willie Parker.
Police had thought maybe there was a jealousy angle when Darice hooked up with a cop. But now it seems like something totally different.
With Willis, Kirkman, and Christopher Pratt in custody in South Carolina on drug and weapons charges, detectives focus their efforts on finding Darice's body.
David Willis told us that Darice Kirkman and Christopher Pratt buried her on State Road 524, so we literally got everybody we could and went out there.
We had a front-end loader, we had the ground-penetrating radar, we had the cadaver dog out there.
We dug multiple different locations. We dug hole after hole after hole. We didn't find anything, we didn't see anything.
With frustration mounting, detectives question whether or not David Willis was being truthful about the location of Darice's body.
She could be anywhere.
Without a body, detectives know it'll be hard to convict the men of murder. But they decide it's time to tell Darice's family what they've learned.
That's not a conversation we want to have over the telephone. We did emphasize that we think we know what's happened. We would like you to come over.
Darice's mother and father fly to Florida to meet with the detectives in Cocoa.
They're there with us. We're kind of outlining what we know, that we do believe that they killed her.
The mom was very shocked about Chris's involvement in it. I assured them that we were going to do what we can to try to find their daughter.
Darice's mother offers to assist detectives.
She requests to talk to Christopher Pratt, who's still being held on drug and gun charges from the traffic stop.
Detectives work with the prosecutors to set up a meeting in South Carolina.
She pled for him to give her any information he could to let her know what happened to her child.
Chris sticks to his story, saying the last time he saw Darice was when he dropped her off at the airport.
Just tell me where she is, so we can bring her home.
I wish I could help you, but I can't.
Please.
He denied everything, but he cried. It's starting to get to him now.
However, once detectives receive the ballistics report on the gun seized in the traffic stop, they finally have the evidence they need to charge the men with at least one murder.
It was the firearm that was used in the murder of Willie Parker.
In October 2006, Darice Kirkman and Christopher Pratt are charged with first-degree murder in the death of Willie Parker and are extradited to Florida.
David Willis identified Kirkman as a shooter and Christopher Pratt as the getaway driver.
Yo, man, let's go, man. Hurry up, man.
It takes 4 years, but Darice Kirkman finally goes on trial first in July 2010.
Vatice Kirkman was found guilty and was sentenced to life in prison.
With Vatice Kirkman convicted of one murder, Christopher Pratt sees the writing on the wall.
If he goes to trial, he could be found guilty and he's going to get life in prison.
It's a risk Christopher isn't willing to take, so he has his attorney reach out to the prosecutors.
Christopher is looking to a plea deal.
The prosecutors are willing, but only if Christopher helps them first.
He would also have to testify in the Darice Knowles case, and we would have to locate her body.
More secrets are revealed once we return with more Fatal Attraction.
Four years after she vanished from Cocoa, Florida, detectives believe they're on the verge of learning what happened to 22-year-old Darice Knowles. Prosecutors have offered Darice's boyfriend, Christopher Pratt, a plea deal to avoid a life sentence for the murder of Willie Parker.
They'll only make the plea deal if he tells them the truth about Darice's disappearance.
In August of 2010, Christopher takes the deal.
Me and a couple of prosecutors interviewed him at the courthouse.
We're here really just to talk about Darice Knowles.
Christopher tells detectives it all started when he saw Darice leaving with Officer Shaw.
Shortly before Darice had disappeared, she had hooked up with a Cocoa police officer.
So you see her talking with a police officer, and what happened as a result of that?
Christopher explains that Darice did have a wild side. He couldn't control her, so he didn't try, even though it bothered him.
However, according to Christopher, it wasn't jealousy that drove what happened next.
Instead, he says it was Vatice Kirkman.
Where your girl at now?
She on a date with some cop.
You sure he's a cop?
Yeah, he been in the neighborhood all the time.
She can tell him about Willie.
Christopher claims he never told Darice anything about the Parker murder or about Vatice. But just seeing Darice talk to a police officer was enough for Vatice.
No, she got to go.
Vatice told him that we have to get rid of Darice because she was friends with the cop.
Christopher says he tried to talk Vatice out of it, but says he had no choice. It was either Darice or both of them.
I already know we'll take my kid below.
Christopher says that when Shaw dropped Darice off at their motel the next day, he already had her suitcase packed and waiting.
He told her that his friends were picking them up and they would take her to the airport.
Chris, what's going on?
It's gonna be okay.
Christopher Pratt said that she trusted him, and he took advantage of that.
Instead of the airport, David Willis drove them all to the home improvement store where Vatice was caught on surveillance.
And I'm dumbfounded by that. You're just going to sit there and look at the girlfriend knowing what you're about to go do.
Vatice comes back out, puts the shovel, duct tape, and the bags of concrete in the trunk, and then they head back out to David Willis's house.
Chris, I'm scared.
Once they dropped off David at home, under the cover of darkness, Christopher says that Vatice demanded he tape Darice's hands and feet together.
Tape her hands.
No! Chris, no! Chris, please, no! Why? Chris, please don't open me!
Then Vatice drove the car to the outskirts of town.
They stop along a wooded area off of 524 in Cocoa.
Dig.
Once again, Christopher says he'd had no choice.
Christopher says he dug a hole deep enough to hold a body.
What now, man?
Go get her put in a hole.
Then, Christopher says he took Darice from the back of the car and carried her to the hole.
Then they got water from a nearby pond to mix with the cement.
And I said, did Vaughtice Kirkman kill her before putting her in the hole?
She will be with her life.
I said, well, how do you know she was still alive? And he said, she was looking at me. I can't even imagine the amount of fear in her mind.
Chris says that he covered her face first so he wouldn't have to see her.
After telling his story, Christopher takes detectives out to where they buried Darice.
Gotta be somewhere in this area. I see full perimeter over 10, 15 feet around here. Somewhere around here.
He didn't act very emotional. It was, I think it's somewhere in here. And that was it. We took him back to jail.
Four years after their initial search, police finally locate the body of Darice Knowles.
We finally recovered her.
Her remains are sent to her family in the Bahamas. And authorities are finally able to charge Vaughtice Kirkman and Christopher Pratt with Darice's murder.
Once again, Christopher Pratt cut a plea deal with prosecutors.
When Vaughtice Kirkman goes on trial in April of 2016, Christopher Pratt is the star witness against him.
On the stand, Christopher basically repeats the detailed account of the murder that he gave to police.
In the end, the jurors see Vaughtice Kirkman as a cold-blooded killer.
The jury found him guilty of capital first-degree murder.
Thanks to his plea deals, Christopher Pratt will eventually be released.
10 years on the Willie Parker case and 10 years in prison on the Darice Knowles case combined to give him 20 years. And then he would be deported to the Bahamas.
To the investigators who worked the case for over 4 years, it's too little for what Christopher Pratt did to Darice Knowles.
My personal belief is that he just wanted to be seen as a victim, and I was just here because Vaughtice Kirkman made me be here. But I think in reality, he was upset because she cheated on him, and he knew exactly what he was doing.
For Darice's family and friends, the outcome does little to ease the pain of their loss.
She was a beautiful, fiery woman, and it would have been amazing to see what she would have accomplished if she hadn't been involved with Christopher Pratt.
She trusted this man, and she ended up dead. That's the ultimate tragedy in this whole thing. The betrayal, the loss of a good person.
It doesn't make sense. It's not humane. It's not normal. It's definitely not love. It's just, it's evil.
The fate of 22-year-old Darice Knowles leaves family and friends in turmoil as detectives solve her disappearance and murder. Loved by family and friends, the senseless and tragic murder of Darice Knowles will stay in the hearts of her loved ones. Coming up on the next episode of the Fatal Attraction podcast.
She had a great family and a solid career.
She had just got that promotion.
She had a great relationship with a new boyfriend.
He was perfect for my sister.
But in the blink of an eye, everything changed.
She didn't come home.
It's my daughter. This is not like her. This is out of her character.
Was she carrying a dark secret?
Life can change in an instant, from love to a tangled web of deceit. What happened to Kajavia Globe? Tune in to the next episode of the Fatal Attraction podcast. We will see you in the next episode.